going to use those time periods a little bit later when we talk about hormonal changes that are going on during metamorphosis. Okay. I'm going to run through some of the changes that do take place in frogs and toads. I'm going to do it with frogs and toads because they have more changes that take place. Salamanders, when they hatch out of the egg, they really do look mostly like a miniature adult. They do undergo metamorphosis, but the changes are not as severe as in a frog and a toad. All right, so let's just look at it. Changes that take place during metamorphosis in and urine. Well, these changes are necessary because of three major differences between the larvae and the adults. Right? And we've already hinted at these. One, the larvae is aquatic, and the adult is terrestrial. So a fundamental difference in habitat for these animals. In general, the larvae, tadpoles, are herbivores. In general, the adults are carnivores. So we're getting a distinct shift in the diet of these animals. And of course, the larvae is non-reproductive, whereas the adult is reproductive. So we have seen very large differences between the larvae and the adult in their habitat, in their mode of feeding, their diet, and whether or not they are reproductive. Most of the changes that take place in metamorphosis, whether they're regressions, developments, or transformations, most of those are taking place because of these three distinct differences in lifestyle between the adults and the larvae. All right, let's look at a bunch of different structures and what's going on. The limbs, for example. Yeah. These things develop usually beginning in pro-metamorphosis, so about 1/3 of the way through metamorphosis, the legs will start developing. And they're going to develop continuously. There's no sudden spurt. They're going to start small and just gradually become bigger. Hind feet appear first, and then the forelegs are going to be next. Now, the front legs, though, actually develop inside, sometimes it's called the gill chamber. Usually it's called the gill chamber. And they're not visible from the outside. So during the development of the front legs, they're not seen from the side. That's because they're covered over by a structure called an operculum. It is not homologous to the operculum of fishes, but it covers over that area, so it's called operculum. They don't appear outside then until the period of climax. So if you find tadpoles, you're most likely to see that they do have some hind legs. But you're not going, if you do see the front legs, that means that that animal's very close to complete metamorphosis and going out onto land. Right? Hind start first, forelegs start later, but the forelegs are not all that much behind. It's just that you can't see it because they're internal. All your tadpoles are going to have a very well developed caudal fin. And that's great if you're living in water because you're going to move by lateral undulations, just like fish move. And so that broad surface area on the caudal fin is going to help you move through the water. Obviously, you don't need it if you're going to be on land because you're going to be using your legs instead. So that caudal fin and the associated tail part of the animal is going to regress. It's actually going to be broken down. There's autolysis and phagocytosis going on so that those nutrients are reabsorbed back into the system and used somewhere else. So this would be then a regression, whereas the limbs are more of a development. They're not really used